superheroes of insurance, so much activity with such a little response rate. What is this? Why should I care? Who are you? Very deep and complicated question. So, we're going to talk today about something that everybody knows I'm known for in this industry, which is renewal reviews. It may go in my obituary. I have not gone as far as to get a tattoo about it yet, but I am very passionate, fired up. And I would even say I'll stretch my wings a little bit and say I'm an expert in getting people to make them. Which, if you've read any of our content, seen any of our blogs, every time you hear the idea of making a proactive renewal review to every single client, it might make you sweat a little bit. You might get a little sweaty in the armpits. You might have a little agita, little tummy ache because it's really overwhelming. But what I know is hard things work. And so today's podcast, I wanted to break down a little bit about some of the strategies we see agencies take in renewing policies and some of the pros and cons. So I by no means think that my strategy is the best for every single agency out there. I do think that when you consider it, you have to make the best decision for you. But the opportunity to get to calling every renewal is astronomically amazing, ridiculously amazing, even. And the idea of how to get there, I want to say, is that you don't have to do it alone. So many of you out there know listening that we have our new course launching on January 15th. And it's all on the top 10 processes your agency needs. And one of them is a renewal process. So we have a whole training as well. You can work with a coach. You can get it in our online school of renewal reviews for your team, but this is kind of how to set the process up and some things to consider. So that, and you get 9 other processes like claims, payments, how to transfer and answer the phone, which sounds silly, but something I get asked at an awful lot. So in order to dive in, let's talk about the top renewal strategies that I see in agencies. And I've nicknamed them because nicknames tend to be more fun. So the first mentality I see is what I call the wait and see model. We're going to wait and see who contacts us about the renewal. And this model I can understand to some degree. In fact, when I first got into insurance and I went to my first 5 agencies on site, well, when I kind of moved into going into agencies, I should say, pretty much 3 out of the 5 the agencies, I said, hey, well, how come the staff seems so stressed? Well, people are calling because rates are going up. Okay, so we get notified of that. Why wouldn't we call them first? And the look of mortification. I thought I was crazy. I was like, I must be smoking crack. I don't know what's going on, but things aren't right. Like the look people gave me was of horror and dread. And they said, that's poking the sleeping bear. And the first agency was like, okay, I get it. Maybe a lot of people auto renew. We don't want to attempt the process. But I started diving a little deep. And the second agency, I was like, something doesn't feel right about this response. By the third agency, if you know me, I get a little fired up. I just said, so let me get this straight. If you call your customer, they're likely to leave you. Is that not a bigger problem in general? So the wait and see model happens because we have the automatic renewal now. So policy downloads, it auto renews. We lose some people, we win some people. But it's a very laissez-faire model, right? It doesn't show that you're driving care. It doesn't show that you're driving concern. It puts the onus on the client to tell you changes, updates, communicate that they're frustrated. And the challenge we're trying to combat really is this, is if I come in and I'm a renewal and I don't know that you exist. So I bought a policy from you over the phone 4 years ago and I'm on EFT and in my bank account comes my carrier. My policy has my carrier name logo. What's the likelihood I remember the independent agent I bought from? It's incredibly low, especially if you haven't been nurturing clients through CRM tools or email drips or anything like that. The problem I have is that this model may be okay, but as time goes on, people don't know to call you with referrals. They don't know to call you if they need another policy. And they really won't know to call you if they're frustrated with rate that you have other options. So you can tell somebody this at the point of sale. I don't remember what I ate for dinner last week. I'm not going to remember you told me something 4 years ago. The other problem I see with that is when people do call in, if they do remember, they're generally not happy, right? So this is now a tense customer experience. Either they've got other quotes in their hands, they're frustrated by the rate, and they say, you people keep raising my rates. And you're backed into a corner, which ultimately leads a lot to a reshop. So you're in what we call the renewal scramble. You're scrambling. You're not coming at this from a moment of empowerment. And what we really love is a moment of empowerment. So when I look at this, yes, it's low maintenance. Yes, it's probably the easiest one. I could argue this though. It's only easy because there's not a lot of coordination. There's not a lot of management. You wait and see, you clean up the mess and you go on to the next mess. I do believe in the long run, it's more time. It wastes your resources. It's not a good client experience. And we're not really driving our true value in independent agencies, which is our knowledge and education and relationship. So it puts the onus completely on the client to manage their insurance experience. And for most people, they don't. I always think I equate a lot of insurance to actually vehicle maintenance. So if my car didn't tell me I needed an oil change, I might go on a long time, right? If I didn't know or have routine maintenance so they told me I need new tires, I'd probably just keep driving them until something happened. So we have a lot of people out there that have a policy and they don't know it might be wrong, incorrect, doesn't fit their lifestyle, all because we're, let's be honest, lazy and don't have the tools or tips or resources to go ahead and come up with a different model. So the wait and see model, I think, is probably the most common, not amongst our agencies, but across the whole United States of America. And I just want to go over the pros and cons on that. Now, the next model I think is more common and the pack that we kind of go in. So the clients that we work with come to us and they're sort of starting here. Most of them have something like this up and running. Some of them do full renewal reviews and coming to us to tweak them, but most of them have what we call the shop till you drop insurance approach. And there's actually two segments under this. So the shop till you drop insurance approach is one where when something happens, a rate increase, either percentage or dollar amount trigger. This is different for every agency. We get tons of phone calls on this. What's the right amount? And that is a very deep and complicated question that usually requires a little bit more than just a 5-minute conversation based on your market, your clientele, what your other processes look like. But this trigger happens and an activity comes out or a report gets generated and it's okay, we're sensing that there's a yellow flag on the field. There's might be a problem with this client. And this is where the paths diverge. Some agencies do what we call the automatic remarket. So it falls in this bucket. We take a 4 or 5-year-old application, rerun it, and call the client thinking that we're just superheroes of insurance. And we call the client and say, I just want to let you know, I got your rate increase in the mail, but don't worry, I've shopped you and I have now XYZ. So on paper, this seems amazing, right? You're calling, you're saying that we've saved you money. They didn't have to lift a finger. I completely can jive on why many agents would think that this is a great strategy. However, let me tell you the backside of what I've seen on that. First of all, I've seen that we do an awful lot of quotes. And when we call people, we might only get half of them on the phone and only half of those move. So when I'm looking at time management, I'm thinking I did 10 requotes, call that 10 hours worth of work. Right off the top, 5 of those hours go poof out the air because we never talked to the person. The person doesn't care enough to call us back. Then I go ahead and look at this other half. Well, of those 50% we talk to, some of them are happy where they are. They're like, oh, that's not enough to move. I'm just going to stay. Or they think I had an inspection last time. I wasn't down with that. Or you know what? I'm selling the house. I'm just going to keep it where I am. Now we take 7.5 hours altogether. So 5 in the beginning, another 7.5, and we go poof, and we move 2.5 of them. So the stats I've seen do not yield great results. And I'm going to put a caveat on here that's not on the blog that's attached to this podcast. I've seen many agencies, I shouldn't say many, I've seen several agencies where the account managers will shop for the producer. Either the producer requests it because they see it, or it's automatic and they hand it back to the producer. And the actual number of calls that producers make to the client to deliver that rate is so low because the producers are either B word busy, which I hate, or they don't think it's enough of a savings, or they just are lazy and are not doing it. And so again, we have so much activity with such a little response rate. My other issue with the automatic reshop is things in people's lives change. So if I got a new roof, if I got Fluffy the pit bull, if we just had this on a call I was on where the business had changed, it came in, it was just to start a business and had $90 million in sales and they were still on a $5,000 BOP. Well, nobody said anything either way. Renewal reviews are the keys to success. So we're taking old information as opposed to updates and honestly finding out what's important to the client. Another key is if it's monoline or we're missing cross-sell opportunities, this is an opportunity to get those cross-sells. When I'm just calling you delivering a rate, I'm missing the opportunity to get that stuff. So I feel like the remarket without a conversation is our like binky. It's our safety blanket. So we might not have to have a hard or difficult conversation with a client. So it's easier for me to call and say, I have this for you. It's harder to call and say, got your rate increase. I'm calling here so we can come up with a game plan. I have some update questions. At the end, that's I'm going to be able to determine what next steps are. That's somebody that has confidence and a skill set that can be trained. If your team has the right training, think the 10 ridiculously amazing processes. Think about our retention program. Just think about calling us. Subliminal messages. Just want to let you know. And so if your team is trained how to have that conversation, it's a much better conversation. If we're not trained and we're just shooting out the remarket, or my other favorite is which happen when we email them the remarket, they don't even know what's going on. They're like, what is this? Why should I care? Who are you? And it just gets to be more confusing, or that triggers them to shop. Well, if I got this, maybe I should look around. So the automatic remarket under the shop so you drop, I don't recommend. I see a lot of challenges with it. What I could get behind in a much heavier fashion is the renewal review call. So if the trigger happens, I make the renewal review call. I have that conversation with a client. I get updates. I see cross sell opportunities, increased coverage, find out what's important to them, find out what's changed, find out what their jam is in life, and then go from there. The only downside I see to this is one, we don't know if some clients had just come in underneath that radar screen a couple years in a row and they're frustrated. Two, everybody's rate threshold is different. My mom's is $8, okay, like $8. Mine is a couple $100. We're arbitrarily picking a number that we're not going to make everybody happy. Three, we miss the opportunity to call people and say your rates went down because, like, that's the call I want to make, right? And we're also missing the opportunity to build a relationship and value when times are neutral or rates are going down. So when rates go up, we already have those deposits in the capital, the piggy bank, right? So I think it's super important that we identify that the renewal review call calling everybody has intrinsic value. It's not just about doing CPR and saving an account that's in that renewal scramble. It's about training people so they don't need CPR and they're practicing safety and they're building that relationship in good time. So when that claim hits, there's little political equity. And I think that that's a thing that we don't talk about enough because everyone's so trying to scramble around rate that we get stuck. So the last one is the one, my personal favorite. But again, every agency is different. I respect that. Is renewal reviews. And that is calling every client once a year for a formal, scripted, outlined renewal review. And I mean formal, scripted renewal review. I think where people get tripped up on renewal reviews is a little bit, I think that's a scenario of understanding more of what's going on in the client's life. I think it's a matter of getting updates. And yes, it's a lot of work, but so is that call in business. And so I think that this is an opportunity to go ahead and understand that. So one of the considerations that I always have is to think through the bigger picture. So if you were to get renewal reviews in alignment with your agency, I think what ends up happening is people think everyone's going to leave. They're going to freak out. We don't have time. We don't have time. We don't have time. What they're saying is, this is scary. This is new. I don't understand. And as a leader, you need to put that in. So having a checklist changes your renewal review process 110%, like 110%, million D percent. And that shows that the team member that there is a structure, there's something that they can go off of. So we actually recommend breaking your process into a pre-call, checklist, getting ready for the call, and then having it on the call. Almost everything I build is built so that we can go ahead and do it on Thursday afternoon when it's 3:00. You have low energy, and I just need to follow the next question in line. When we have everybody winging it, we lose consistency, and everybody's renewal calls are different. We want one way to do a renewal call. We want that way to be easy and simple and easy to train on. So our renewal review calls have the following outline. We update contact information, the holy grail. You can't talk to somebody. We can't give a ridiculously amazing service if we can't speak to somebody. Activity review. What are the most common activities recent? Renewal review questions to get updates from the client. So we have a series of questions like, do you drive for Uber? Have you serving on any boards? Have you out for any products and services? Personal and commercial of different ones. We then start with a coverage review. This is what you have. This is what we recommend, especially if policies are below agency standard. And I think that that's an opportunity to take a look at. I'd also like to say that on that, we want to make recommendations for the highest level coverages. So this is great for your E&O. I recommend you go to this, or this is an option. Do you want to look at it? Client declines, we document. Cross sells. Renewals are a huge sales opportunity for doing it right. If people have policies at other agencies, we're not in good standing. Rate discussion. Discuss current market conditions and recommend staying with company or remarketing. So we can now talk to the person. Hey, based on the market, we're seeing everybody's going up about 8%. You went about 7%. Some people will be great with that. Some people will say, wow, that's really high. We took another rate increase a couple weeks ago. There's something that we should consider. So we discuss rate, we get a game plan. We talk about remarketing checklist next. So it's going down that path. Do they have this? And we talk to them about inspections. We talk to them about all that stuff, and people might change their mind. We also do a discount review. So let's make sure we're getting all the discounts so we don't have to move markets. We have a section for gratitude, thanking the client, and how to document it in your management system. So I know if you're driving, this might seem like a lot. So you might want to check out our blog where all this is outlined. Shameless plug for our blog. But I can't speak enough on how renewal reviews change the world. I call them penicillin. So if you do these right, you get updated contact information. We catch E&O errors. We deal with coverage increases. We identify cross sells. We reduce remarketing and instead we enhance strategic remarketing. So maybe companies we want to move business from. Maybe there's a whole bunch of brokers we're using out there that we need to consolidate. Maybe there's a company we're trying to decelerate business from. That's strategic remarketing. We can do that through a renewal review. We can also talk about carrier updates, things in personal lines like service line protection, mechanical breakdown. Those are all new. We can address non-renewals in a sequence fashion. We got a non-renewal. Let's put them through the renewal review. We have increased retention and we've increased referrals. So I know everybody's like, they sound great, Kelly, but they're so hard to do. And I say that they are hard to do, but so are burpees, so are push-ups, and they're hard to do because they're worth it. And I can't speak enough. You pick your hard. Being an insurance agent is hard today. Dealing with rate increases is hard. Doing renewal calls is hard. One version of hard leads to a better place. It's just hard right now. And these are the things that I think are very critical for us to consider. So I want everybody to just think through just a tad bit on what that looks like. And maybe now is not the right time for your agency. Maybe you're geared up. It's 2023. You want to see the process, get our process course on this. Maybe you want to reach out and talk to us more about it. We're always happy to have a 30-minute conversation on how it works. But the agencies doing it see remarkable results quickly. And that's what I want everybody to understand. If you're looking at your renewal processes, this is a good time. Check out our process pack again. We got a whole bunch of other ones out there. But make sure you have a renewal process. I'm going to end with this. If you don't have a renewal process, everybody's doing its own thing. Okay. And because everybody's doing its own thing, I think that is one of the considerations that if I'm under Sally's book, my renewal process is different than under Angie's book. And that's something we have to change. And this is what also leads to inequity of time. This is where some people are caught up in their activities and some people are buried on their activities. This is where some people have different retention rates. So a one uniform process leads to consistency, the ability for you to lead and manage more, the team to feel better about their day, and your renewals to be as high as possible. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I hope you have a wonderful day and check out our newest course on 10 agency processes.